Yeah, but what do we know about raising chinchillas?
Gee, Wally, it says here they're clean, funny little animals. And here's a man in Des Moines that made $10,000.
Premiering in 1957, Leave It to Beaver was more than just a sitcom, it was a phenomenon, an American cultural explosion that resonated for decades. The story revolves around the Cleaver family, centered on the young Theodore Beaver Cleaver and his older brother Wally. Unlike most shows of its era, the series viewed the world through the eyes of a child, revealing innocent troubles, sweet sibling bonds, and how parents, though not perfect, always watched over and protected their children. But there are secrets few people know. Leave It to Beaver was the first show to dare show a toilet on screen, and one particular episode had a budget of $40,000, a staggering sum at the time. Beyond that, do you know why Barbara Billingsley always wore a pearl necklace and high heels in every scene? Or the real reason Jerry Mathers left, because the producers forced him into the unimaginable? Let's explore 20 strange facts that few ever knew about Leave It to Beaver. 20. The most expensive episode cost $50,000. On May 6, 1961, American audiences gathered to watch an episode that would later become legendary, In the Soup. At the time, however, no one realized they were witnessing the most expensive production in the series' history. The story begins innocently enough. Beaver and his friend Whitey stand beneath a giant billboard where a steaming bowl of hot soup looks impossibly delicious. A childish dare rings out. Is that soup bowl actually real? And then Beaver climbs up. In that moment, it was no longer a joke. The young boy found himself stuck mid-air inside a giant soup bowl. The whole city was in an uproar. The fire department was called in, and the audience at home held their breath. To create those few minutes of tension, the crew had to do the unthinkable. For 1961, they built 2 massive billboards, one outdoors for wide shots and a replica in the studio for close-ups. The cost skyrocketed to nearly $50,000, a staggering figure considering that most episodes at the time averaged between $30,000 and $40,000. Jerry Mathers later recalled that this was the scene he was asked about most throughout his entire career. Not just because it was dramatic, but because it nearly sent the production into a financial tailspin. Following this episode, the producers were forced to adjust their filmmaking using cheaper sets and more supporting characters, just to compensate for the splurge on a bowl of soup that no one could ever forget. Perhaps that was the magic of that era. The simplest things, a billboard, a childhood dare, could become a moment that made millions of people fall silent together. Do you remember this episode, or is there a specific detail from the show you love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 19. Why Jeri Weil left the show. Do you remember Jeri Weil, who played Judy Hensler? The sharp yet mischievous classmate of Beaver appeared in 31 episodes of Leave It to Beaver, but eventually decided to leave the show. Decades later, Jeri revealed the real reason her body had begun changing during filming, and those experiences made her feel uncomfortable on set. I started developing breasts, and they brought AC bandages to cover them, she shared with Remind magazine in March 2025. She recalled a specific scene that made her extremely embarrassed. It was one of the worst days. We had a baseball scene, and Judy hit a home run. I was wearing a long skirt, and it was the first time I had my period. They wanted me to spin, and I was afraid the Kotex pad would show. You know what I mean? I had grown up, and the boys didn't go through this, but for me it became obvious and impossible to hide. After experiencing such embarrassment and stress, Jeri realized she had had enough of these experiences on set. She decided to step away from the show voluntarily. I once read that I was fired, but that's not true. They didn't fire me. I let them go. That's the real story. Jeri emphasized closing a chapter of tension, but also personal growth in her childhood. 18. Hugh Beaumont could never fully enjoy the show. Behind the calm smile and the image of the ideal father Ward Cleaver on screen, Hugh Beaumont carried an unhealable wound. In 1959, when Leave It to Beaver had just entered its third season, his family traveling from Minnesota to visit him in Hollywood was involved in a tragic accident. The car carrying his wife, son Hunter, and mother-in-law lost control, leaving a devastating aftermath. His mother-in-law died, and his son was seriously injured. The tragedy struck just as Beaumont's career was flourishing. All of America adored Ward Cleaver, the ideal father and family man. But for Beaumont, the show was tied to painful memories. He often appeared on set with a gentle expression, while his heart was heavy with loss. Colleagues recounted that he seemed to just go through the role working in a detached manner, as his spirit never truly escaped the shadow of the accident. Perhaps that is why Beaumont never fully enjoyed the success of Leave It to Beaver. For the audience, he was the symbol of the perfect American family. But for him, each episode reminded him of the price paid a private pain forced to be hidden behind a calm facade. 17. Larry Mondello, vanished because of fame or something else. Let's take a nostalgic look back at this character. Larry Mondello, Beaver's chubby, snack-loving, troublemaking best friend, suddenly vanished after Season 3 of Leave It to Beaver. There was no explanation in the script. Audiences simply realized one day that the familiar face was gone. Rumors spread quickly that the family of Rusty Stevens, the actor who played Larry, wanted to pull their son away from the spotlight to give him a normal childhood. But the truth was a bit more complicated. Barbara Billingsley, the iconic June Cleaver, later revealed that Rusty's mother was actually the primary cause. She was reportedly quite difficult to work with and interfered so much in the production that the crew grew weary of the tension. Combined with the family's move from California to Philadelphia, Larry Mondello's disappearance became irreversible. One of the funniest, most mischievous faces of 1950s television suddenly fell into a silent void. That void was quickly filled by a new character, Gilbert Bates, played by Stephen Talbot. Gilbert was clever and sly, becoming Beaver's partner in crime for many childish troubles. However, keen-eyed viewers easily recognized that Gilbert was essentially a replacement for Larry, allowing the show to maintain its successful formula without missing a beat. Which actor left a bigger impression on you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 16 actors were close in real life. The sibling bond in Leave It to Beaver extended beyond the screen. Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow faces, associated with the childhood of millions of American families, genuinely saw each other as brothers in real life. Jeri wrote in his memoir, "Tony and I have been good friends since we met in 1957. Their connection was so real that many viewers mistook them for actual brothers, as the chemistry was impossible to fake. When the show ended, unlike many co-stars who drift apart, they maintained a strong bond. In 1978, they returned to the stage together in Boeing Boeing, and later toured with So Long Stanley. Mathers recounted that Dow even gave up a house renovation job to collaborate with him again, a decision reflecting rare trust and friendship. They remained together even as life changed. Interestingly, in real life, their sibling positions were reversed. Jeri Mathers was the older brother, while Tony Dow was the youngest. Yet on screen, they portrayed their roles so naturally that viewers believed Dow was born to be Beaver's protective older brother. Their care and concern behind the scenes mirrored that of true siblings. Their friendship lasted a lifetime. Despite career challenges or fading fame, Mathers and Dow still called each other brothers. 15. The show's stars were not allowed to watch the program. In 1957, while all of America eagerly followed Leave It to Beaver, the show's young stars were not allowed to watch themselves on screen. Tony Dow, the handsome Wally Cleaver, revealed that the producers instructed his parents to forbid him from seeing the show. The reasoning stern and cold. They didn't want the kids to get a big head. In other words, they feared the spotlight would make Dow and Jeri Mathers arrogant and lose the innocence that made their characters appealing. While millions of viewers laughed at Beaver's mischief and Wally's maturity, the two boys in real life were completely separated from the cultural phenomenon they helped create. Tony Dow admitted that perhaps many years later, he still hadn't seen all the episodes he appeared in. An ironic paradox, becoming an idol without ever knowing what that idol looked like on screen. Yet this ban helped keep Dow and Mathers' childhoods nearly normal. Offset, they returned to school, played sports, and hung out with friends. 14. The first toilet on television. In October 1957, the Leave It to Beaver episode, Captain Jack quietly made a shocking cultural milestone. In this episode, Wally and Beaver decide to raise an alligator, but the question was where to hide it. The answer stunned the entire United States at the time the kids chose the water tank of a toilet. For a brief moment, the small screen displayed the lid and tank, something American television had considered completely taboo for decades. It's important to remember that in the 1950s, mentioning a toilet was still considered impolite, let alone showing it on screen. CBS's censors and later ABC's reacted strongly when they saw the script. Initially, they strictly prohibited any toilet imagery, believing it would ruin the innocence of family television. Eventually, after tense negotiations, the producers were allowed to film only the tank and the flush handle, a partial compromise, but enough to make history. Those few seconds sparked a revolution. For the first time, American television dared to touch an everyday symbol that society had quietly avoided. 13. Tony Dow was a Junior Olympics diving athlete. Before becoming America's gentle and handsome older brother in Leave It to Beaver, Tony Dow impressed people with an achievement unrelated to acting diving. From the age of 5, young Dow trained diligently, flipping through the air and plunging into the water like an arrow. By the age of 9, Dow had earned the title of Junior Olympics diving champion, even setting a record in his age group. With his athletic physique and iron discipline, many coaches were certain he could go all the way to the real Olympics. That passion was far from small. Dow once revealed that his dream was to one day compete for the U.S. team, even planning to aim for the 1972 Olympics. All he lacked was time and opportunity. He spent his entire childhood at the pool, practicing perfect spins, repeatedly enduring icy water and painful water entries. Yet fate had a different script. One day, Dow's mother took him to an audition he wasn't particularly interested in. Thanks to his bright face, natural demeanor, and athletic build, Tony Dow was unexpectedly cast as Wally Cleaver. From then on, the pool and diving board gave way to the soundstage scripts and studio lights. If you're impressed with Tony Dow's role in the show, share your thoughts in the comments below. 12. Characters aged, along with the actors. One thing that made Leave It to Beaver different from many sitcoms of its time was that characters were allowed to grow up in real time with the actors. When the show began, Beaver was just a second grader, innocent, curious, and always getting into mischief. Meanwhile, Wally, the older brother, was just entering adolescence, carrying the awkwardness of an 8th grader, experiencing the first signs of puberty. Instead of freezing characters at a fixed age to preserve their initial charm, the writers chose a bold direction, let them grow on screen. Across 6 seasons, Wally gradually transformed from the neighborhood kid into a typical high school boy playing sports, having a girlfriend, and preparing for adulthood. Beaver, meanwhile, retained some of his childlike traits, but also experienced the first crises of growing up, the shyness, the awkwardness of moving up a grade, and the initial lessons in responsibility and honesty. By the end of the series, Wally had graduated from high school and Beaver had left elementary school for a new stage of life. Although the age gap between the brothers was sometimes inconsistently handled by the writers, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 4, the process of growing with the characters created a rare sense of realism. Viewers at the time didn't just watch a family sitcom, they saw themselves in each step of Wally and Beaver's development. 11. Jeri Mathers was actually not in I Love Lucy. You've probably heard the persistent rumor for decades leading many fans of I Love Lucy and Leave It to Beaver to believe they had uncovered a hidden secret. In the episode Ricky's Old Girlfriend, 1953, there's a scene where Lucy dreamily holds a small boy. The boy's face, with bright eyes and innocence, looks so much like Jeri Mathers that viewers were convinced young Beaver had wandered into Lucy Ricardo's world. But Jeri Mathers repeatedly denied it. On his official Facebook page in March 2019, he clarified, "Although the boy in the dream scene may resemble me, I never appeared in any episode of I Love Lucy." The truth was further confirmed by production records which clearly listed the boys in the dream scene as twins Joseph and Michael Mayer. Mathers' name was not among them. 10. Jeri Mathers wore a cute Boy Scout uniform to his audition. Jeri Mathers entered Hollywood in a way that was both innocent and fateful. At just 5 years old, Mathers auditioned for Leave It to Beaver wearing a Boy Scout uniform. Contrary to what people might think, he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He had an actual troupe meeting afterward and was eager for the audition to end quickly so he could attend. His sincerity, innocence, and lack of calculation made the casting directors realize no one could be Beaver but this boy. Remarkably, before the legendary sitcom doors opened, Jeri Mathers already had an artistic resume that many adult actors would envy. At just 2.5 years old, on a trip to the Broadway shopping center in Los Angeles with his mother, he caught the eye of a store employee. Thanks to his adorable innocence, Mathers was invited to model for a catalog. That's when his career began to blossom. Soon after, he appeared in commercials, television programs, and even feature films. By the time he started school, Mathers had participated in 7 major and minor films. While most children his age were still playing outside, Jeri Mathers had become a familiar face to the audience, a perfect stepping stone for Beaver Cleaver to enter and leave a mark on American television history. 9. June Cleaver used pearls to conceal flaws. In Leave It to Beaver, the image of June Cleaver with perfect hair, a neat dress, and a shiny pearl necklace became a cultural icon of 1950s America. But Barbara Billingsley, who played June, didn't wear it to look fancy in the kitchen. She admitted that her neck had a hollow, a small indentation that created an awkward shadow under the camera. The pearls were her tool to hide that flaw, making June appear smooth and flawless on screen. Once audiences got used to seeing June Cleaver perfectly groomed, the producers quickly turned the pearl necklace into a mandatory trademark. June wore it not only at parties, but even while cooking, cleaning, or chatting at the kitchen table, maintaining the appearance of the ideal mother, as if the perfection of the American family had to always shine no matter the circumstance. Not only the pearls, Barbara Billingsley was also required to wear high heels day after day. The reason was both funny and bitter. The sons on the show were growing taller, and the TV mother couldn't appear dwarfed in front of them. Pearls hid flaws, high heels maintained authority. Every small detail was carefully calculated by Hollywood to create an impeccable June Cleaver. 8. No one knew where the Cleaver family lived. A mystery persisted for more than half a century, one that even the most devoted Leave It to Beaver fans never solved. Where did the Cleaver family actually live? All the show revealed was the name Mayfield, a familiar-sounding yet completely vague name. No state, no map, no coordinates. Just an imaginary town close enough for any American viewer to see themselves in it. But audiences didn't sit still. They followed every clue. Wally once mentioned that his school band performed in Madison, Wisconsin. The Cleaver family mentioned going to see the Green Bay Packers, clearly pointing to Wisconsin. Yet some TV researchers noted that the exterior shots of Mayfield were filmed in Skokie, Illinois, with streets and churches still standing today. The story became even more confusing when a few episodes revealed details hinting at Ohio, from Grant Avenue to suburban Cleveland-style settings. Some even pointed out that producers deliberately altered street signs and adjusted distances to prevent viewers from pinpointing Mayfield's true location. The mystery of the Cleaver family's home thus never needed a definitive answer. What do you think about where the Cleavers lived? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 7. Many original cast members returned for the spin-off. In 1983, America was surprised by a family reunion that seemed impossible. Still the Beaver was born, bringing the original Leave It to Beaver cast back to the screen after more than 2 decades. Jerry Mathers was no longer the innocent little boy, but now took on the role of a father, guiding a new generation of Cleavers. He exclaimed emotionally, "It's amazing, because I get to play the father." And many original cast members also returned. Audiences cheered when Barbara Billingsley continued as June Cleaver, Tony Dow returned as the grown-up Wally Ken Osmond, remained the mischievous Eddie Haskell, and Frank Bank reprised Lumpy Rutherford. Their appearances breathed powerful nostalgia into viewers, making millions feel like they were reliving the 1950s, but with a more mature, everyday perspective. Yet this reunion also carried a shadow of tragedy. Hugh Beaumont, the exemplary Ward Cleaver, had passed away just 1 year before Still the Beaver premiered. The production team dedicated the opening episode to honor him, affirming that Ward's spirit still watched over the Cleaver family in every frame. Have you watched this show? Share your feelings about seeing the cast reunited. 6. Some lines were cut if considered too funny. A strict rule set by the producers stated that if a line made the entire set laugh too loudly, it would be immediately removed from the script. They didn't want the show to turn into a loud comedy performance. Instead, the goal was to create soft, gentle smiles, like the quiet breath of everyday family life. The reason Leave It to Beaver didn't want to compete with the over-the-top sitcoms of the time, but chose a subtle path, viewers would smile because they saw themselves in the situation, not because of an exaggerated joke. 5. Tony Dow was the perfect choice for Wally. Tony Dow, who played Wally Cleaver in the classic sitcom Leave It to Beaver, embodied the ideal older brother of the 1950s American family. However, few know that he faced many challenges to achieve this. Before being cast as Wally, Tony had little acting experience and had never appeared in a television show. In fact, he only attended an open audition and didn't expect to be selected. However, thanks to his athletic skills and confidence, Tony impressed the producers and landed the role. Although considered the perfect choice, Tony faced great pressure entering the entertainment industry. He had to learn how to convey confidence and poise while maintaining the image of the ideal older brother in the audience's eyes, a significant responsibility for a boy who had never experienced a big stage. Yet, through effort and talent, Tony succeeded and left a lasting impression on viewers with his portrayal of Wally Cleaver. 4. The real reason the show ended. Although Leave It to Beaver maintained steady ratings and remained beloved by audiences throughout its 6-season run, the show had to end in 1963, not because of failure or declining ratings, but due to the decision of Jeri Mathers, the boy who played Theodore Beaver Cleaver. At the time, Jeri was about to enter junior high school and wanted to focus on his studies, realizing that the filming schedule and weekend promotional activities would take up all his time and energy. Maturity and a sense of responsibility toward his education led to a wise choice, leaving the show at the height of its success. The producers considered continuing Leave It to Beaver without Jeri, but they quickly realized that the series could not exist without Beaver, the soul of the show. Without him, the program would lose its vitality and charm even if the ratings remained high. So after 6 seasons, an icon of American childhood came to a close. 3. Barbara Billingsley was typecast after the show. Barbara Billingsley, famous for her role as June Cleaver in Leave It to Beaver, shared her experience of being typecast as the ideal mother. After the show ended, she struggled to find new roles and was often recognized only for her old character. However, in 1980, she experienced a major career breakthrough when she appeared in the comedy Airplane in Airplane. Barbara Billingsley played a passenger capable of speaking jive, helping to interpret for 2 African-American passengers in difficulty. To prepare for the role, she met the 2 actors on set to learn jive. She recalled, "I was chosen because I had been June Cleaver. They sent me the script, and I thought it was the craziest script I had ever read. My role wasn't fully written, it only required me to speak jive. I met the producer and said I would do it. I met 2 friends who taught me jive. Learning the acting part wasn't hard for me. This role not only brought her renewed recognition, but also revitalized her acting career." 2. The show had a memorable final episode. The final episode of Leave It to Beaver, titled Family Scrapbook, aired on June 20th, 1963, and became a significant milestone in American television history. Unlike most previous shows where endings were often unprepared, Leave It to Beaver skillfully concluded the series with a special episode combining memorable moments and celebrating the characters' growth. In this episode, June Cleaver discovers a family scrapbook while tidying the house. The Cleaver family gathers together, flipping through the old photo album and reminiscing about unforgettable memories from past episodes. Flashback scenes recreate humorous and touching moments from Beaver being spelled to the adventures of Wally and Beaver, creating a vivid portrait of the Cleaver family's journey across 6 seasons. A special highlight of this finale is the explanation of Theodore's nickname Beaver. Previously, the origin of the nickname was never clarified, but in Family Scrapbook, viewers learned that it came from Wally, who as a child mispronounced Beaver's real name as Tweeter, which later became Beaver. Although Jeri Mathers, who played Beaver, felt that after 6 years and 234 episodes, The writers could have created a better backstory. It remains an interesting detail that enriches the Cleaver family story. Have you watched the series finale, and how did you feel about it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 1. Hugh Beaumont directed 23 episodes. Hugh Beaumont, holding the director's baton personally, directed 23 episodes of Leave It to Beaver. He was behind many of the most subtle and touching moments in the series, including the iconic final episode Family Scrapbook, 1963. The decision to have Beaumont in the director's chair was no accident. Before rising to fame with Leave It to Beaver, he had experience writing scripts and producing short films and radio plays. Thus, Beaumont not only understood Ward Cleaver's character, but also mastered the storytelling rhythm, a rare combination of actor and comprehensive storyteller. Behind the scenes, colleagues recalled that Beaumont often stepped out of the set with a camera in hand, adjusting every shot, even showing the child actors how to live authentically in their roles. Leave It to Beaver, 1957. Though a seemingly ordinary family sitcom revealed strange and fascinating behind-the-scenes truths. From the first toilet on American television to Jerry Mathers almost missing the role of Beaver because of a Boy Scout meeting to Larry Mondello disappearing because his parents wanted him away from fame, everything turned the show into an incredible yet true legend. So which detail is your favorite among the 20 strange facts about Leave It to Beaver? Or do you have a personal memory connected to the show? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe to continue exploring the thrilling secrets behind classic TV shows. See you in the next stories.